name's Bart, and today we'll be doing another FIF4 lap guide on iRacing, and today we're at Suzuka. Let's get to the hot lap. Alright, so now we're heading down the very long straight at Suzuka Circuit. I've talked about Suzuka before, but one of my favourite tracks, really complicated track, and the first sector's got really nice flow to it. So, into the first corner, flat on the entry, braking as we kind of get the car into the banking. Most important part here is get the rotation done before you hit the brakes as much as possible. It's never going to be able to do all your turning before you hit the brakes. Just completely impossible with the shape of the corner and the restrictions of the car. But you can see here, please look at the bottom left and just have a little look at the steering inputs that I try and do here. So a flat, 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 flat. And as we're turning in, and just as I hit the brake, you notice I come off the steering a little bit. And what I'm effectively trying to do is I've turned the car, rotate the car enough. I'm trying to come out of the steering just to make this next bit a little bit straighter, but most importantly, this next, let's say 3 car lengths. And the point of that is to try and just get that little bit more efficient braking. Because if you try and brake while you're turning, you're generally going to lock up, especially in this car, you're going to lock the fronts very easily on these fixed setups. So make sure you try and get the steering lock out when you hit the brake pedal. And the car's still quite loaded, so I can't hit 80% brake pressure. That's just not going to happen. I don't really want to either because I want to still carry speed into what's quite a long corner. You can see I'm just hitting 30, 40. I might get an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of brake pressure just by trying to straighten it up a bit. It also helps kind of shorten the distance, and the car likes it when you just get straight for a fraction as well when you hit the brakes. So that's the first thing. Just try and turn in late here. Late as possible so you can get it straight while still getting down to the inside part of the track here, where the grip is, where the camber is. If you turn in so late you miss the inside, the reason why you don't want to do that is because you'll hit the brake and you'll just end up... we don't have any kind of track to run into, if you know what I mean, like to run wide into. The car's loaded that way. It's loaded towards the left side of the track, so as we brake and turn, we're going to be forced that way. If we turn in later, we're just not going to be able to carry the same speed. We're going to end up on this crappy runoff area, so let's try and avoid that. So, braking is the see. I'm still sustaining that 20-30% brake pressure. Just trying to modulate it a little bit. Not easy to do. Down to 4th gear. So use all the track on the entry, up to the white line. In this case, I don't quite get hooked up on the inside curb. It's not necessary to be right to the inside. In fact, I wouldn't recommend hitting the inside curb because that means you've definitely overslowed it and it can kind of unsettle and it can usually compromise your throttle pickup. But it is good to get to the white line. So this isn't necessarily wrong because it is important to roll speed here, probably a little bit more than reduce the distance as part of the corner. But what I will say is that this is as wide as you want to go. Try and be somewhere between here and the inside of the track. Don't be hitting the inside curb. But here in the next half a car width to the inside is that range we want to be. This is a limit of as wide as I want you to be at this point. Because any wider, and we don't really have the rubber. In a race, there can be marbles out there, and we just don't have as much camber. And again, it kind of compromises our exit a little bit in terms of the space of the track. So now pick up the throttle very fast, very aggressively into on the exit of this corner. Don't run any more curb than this. Again, I've mentioned this before on previous Suzuka lap guides. If you hit the floor of the car, so the middle where the plank is, virtually in line with where the driver is, the center of the halo, over this lip of the curb, it will bottom out and it can drag you wide or lose your time. Don't do that. Non-advantage. So just run so your left tires go on this little bit of Astro, and that's as much as you want to take. So quickly try and prep the car, get it all the way over to the right-hand side as we do here. In these conditions, I certainly found this left of turn 3 is flat. So you can see using the curb, same as normal here. Just trying to use as much of the curb as possible. It really helps rotate the car. More than anything, we're trying to prepare. So we want to get the car really as far right as possible for this. We've got this left-hander coming up all the way around here. We want to be tight to the inside on the exit of the next right-hander, if that makes sense. We'll show it a little bit. But to do that, we're trying to prepare the car already. So we're flat out, but we're trying to prepare the car using all the curb, rotating it, keeping it to the left, trying to hold it to the left to the end of the curb, to the end of that white line, still turning left, you can see, just as they come off the curb. Then aggressively turning right, lift as you turn in here. That'll help rotate the car and just slow it down a little bit. Get onto the inside of the curb. So this is what I mean. We're now tight to the right-hand side of the track at the end of this right-hander of turn 4. So now we can get back to full throttle. You can see I'm not forced all the way out to the left-hand side of the track. This is so we can open this up a little bit. So we want to be about mid-track there. And then we turn in, lifting again into here. You can see keeping some throttle on, which will just help keep the momentum up and also just help balance the car as well. It's not going to snap into oversteer. This section's all about how much speed can I carry whilst preparing the car for the next bit of the track. I'm using the curb again to turn the car. Similar to the exit of turn 2, if you use too much of this curb, it does bottom out. So it's nice just to hook your tires on this to kind of get that bit of rotation. Full throttle. And again, preparing, going to about mid-track, then turning in just so we widen up a little bit. Now, this is probably the first time we need to just hold the inside all the way around, certainly through the middle of the corner. As you go downhill here, it's not only downhill, it's also off camber as you go through this right. So if you go to the left-hand side of the track, you're just going to understeer. So we need to stay tight to the inside at this point here. You're aiming to meet the inside here. And you need to slow the car down. You shouldn't need to brake. So you can see here, in these conditions, I'm able to just to lift. Got fractional amount of throttle on. And you just want to, so you kiss the white line. You can hit the inside curb, but not ideal. Ideally, you just want to hit the white line. Again, the curb can upset, or it's a sign that you've gone too slow, so you haven't carried enough speed. So just try to meet the inside white line here. So once you've done that, you've got the car hooked up, and the corner should start to come back towards you again. As you start to go downhill, the corner or the off camber nature of it starts to go away. In this part of the corner coming up, so you should be able to pick up throttle and kind of hook yourself onto the inside. It will understeer in a sec as you pick up speed. You can see I'm forced out here, and this is all about compromise, a bit like we talked about last week with Lime Rock. We want to try and take this last left flat. This is Dunlop. So how fast can we take? How fast can we take this previous section while still taking Dunlop flat? So obviously you can go very slow and start over here, and it's very easy to take Dunlop flat. If you're on the fully to the left-hand side of the track, you won't be able to take Dunlop flat. So it's a case of compromise, right? How much am I forced out here? So then how hard is it for me to try and prepare for Dunlop again on the entry. So you see at this point I get about, I want to say just past halfway to the right hand side of the track. I'm able to take this flat out still. Don't want to hit the inside curb here. I just want to meet the white line again, forced out to use all the exit curb. But yeah, that's your reference, right? So the key for this right is holding the inside and preparing it. Then you want to pick up the throttle just as you're coming down the hill. And when you pick up the throttle, is all about how much speed can I carry and still get to Dunlop. So I'm usually looking, I want to say over here, because this is where I'm trying to turn in from. So say it was really low grip in like a GT3 car. I'm trying to make this white line. So that's where I'm kind of looking to reach. But because it's an F4 car and we have some downforce and we have slick tires and we don't have way much, then I'm looking here because that's as far as I need to make it over to the right hand side of the track. So and because of that, I can kind of judge the exit. So it's a tricky one again if you're very reliant on this is my turning marker, this is my braking marker. But it's also a good time to start experimenting and just try looking for references or places you want to put the car rather than being reliant on a specific hard reference and starting to use everything, So understanding where you are in terms of positioning for the track based on the Ferris wheel and the marshal's post and the side road, and it all coming and forming one big picture rather than being hard like I need to turn it at this post or something like that. So turning it off here, nice and flat. Being smooth on the steering is very, very important through that left. If you drop your right wheels onto this curb, it can bottom and you can get dragged off here. So watch out because it usually means you have to lift out because you can end up in this gravel trap or DNFing. If you run over this red and white curb, just keep that in mind. It is a bit risky. Smooth the wheel now again. Should be easy flat. First long left. Let's just get over to the left hand side of the track. Try and get hit early. Don't just meet the white line and then go bang, because that's how you drop a wheel onto the grass and being consistent in races and things like that. So soft brake for first Degner. You can take it in fifth gear. It's borderline between fifth and fourth. I think in these grippier conditions than we normally have at Suzuka, you can take it in fifth gear, and it is pretty stable. So again, use the inside curb. Just helps rotate the car a bit. It is a massive curb, so if you take a lot of it, it will just kind of lift the right wheels up and then just fire you off. So don't take all of it. Certainly not. Not in a GT car, but just try and clip the inside here. You also find you probably turn in a fraction early because you understeer as you turn into this corner. So what I mean by that is you're looking on the entry and you see where I've turned in. It almost looks like I'm going to smack the inside of the curb, right? But you're kind of forced out by the speed you're carrying, especially if you're in fifth gear. It's going to kind of force you wide. Very similar to Laguna Seca, the left going up the hill before the corkscrew. Yeah, so use this compression. You should be able to pick up the throttle now as you go through there. Force onto the outside curb. Brake in a straight line now. Really tricky to brake if you're on this outside curb. On this lap, I wasn't forced too wide, so I'm able to keep the car straight on this short straight. Tricky to do. Down to third gear for the second Degner. Get a really short brake. Try and be efficient, but bleed out quickly. Get the car onto the inside curb or the white line. Either kind of works. Very aggressive throttle pickup. Be forced down to the exit curb again. If you run the floor of the car over the lip of this red and white, it will bump. You'll get an off track and you'll stall the car a little bit, so it'll not accelerate out of the corner. You got this little kink before the hairpin. Important here that we just be smooth on the wheel when we don't turn in too early. So look to meet the end of this curving around here with the white line. So we're in a straight line for the hairpin. And that's consistent, a bit like the entry Degner one. Let's make it so we do the same thing every lap. That cuts down on mistakes in the next corner. Now we smack the brake pedal as hard as we can, right? So traditional hairpin stuff, braking in a straight line, really high pressure, 90, 85% of maximum brake pressure. I don't really get caught up in the fact that the white line does deviate in this direction. Just ignore that. What's important for us is that we're braking very efficiently. We've got the full width of the track at our disposal. We're keeping the wheel straight, and we're aiming to roll the car into this cambered apex around here. So braking a straight line, then a second gear, and just there's you can see there's kind of a bowl to the track on the inside part of it. So we're just going to kind of go over the top, and if we've got the braking done efficiently enough, we should be able to turn in nicely. So you can see very efficient on the brakes, maintain that hard brake pressure. And just as we turn in now, into the bowl, into the camber, down a second gear, off the brake, roll the speed a bit. Then you should be able to very aggressively pick up the throttle as soon as you get into that camber. Force the car out to the right-hand side of the track, usually the exit curb. And now just be smooth and try and reduce the distance to the inside here. You can use that little bit of AstroTurf. Keep it to the inside, reduce the distance. Again, don't scrub the wheel too much. Or scrub the front tyres too much. Bring it over to the right-hand side. Again, don't just meet it super late and kind of turn in aggressively. Let's try and get in position nicely where this service road is. Now, braking just after that, it's a pretty good reference, to be honest. It does feel pretty blind and lost into here because it's quite flat. My recommendation is don't really look... it's tricky, right? So don't really look to hit this inside curb because you'll end up too early to the inside and you'll hit the curb and it'll kind of fire you wide. That's not really great. So try and look to meet the white line around here, around the back of this curb a little bit. Or sometimes what I do is I actually look out here. It's a little bit tricky, but I'm looking to, because that's where I'm actually looking to have my exit. It's a bit weird, but looking straight for the exit here and just looking out here somewhere for the exit curb. So braking into fifth gear and then fourth gear for the first part. It's quite a gradual. Don't worry about really spamming down the gears on the entry here. Down to fifth and down to fourth. Meet the white line there, but you should be forced out. The keys that you're forced out here. So now you can see I pick up the throttle a little bit, and that's just to force the car out wide more than anything. Yes, I want to carry speed, but the most important thing is I need to widen up the entry to the second part of spoon, which is the important part because this is what sets up our exit down the straight. So I'm just trying to open the width up as much as possible. You won't get off track for this. This is as wide as you want to go. If you go any wider than this, the curb kind of drags the car wide. Make sure you turn left for this second apex before the end of this curb. Otherwise you could get caught by it and you might get a snap, or you might just understeer or an off track or whatever. So it's not really ideal. Quite often you just miss the corner. But yeah, you can see I pick up a little bit of, let's call maintenance throttle, just some throttle to kind of force the car wide, to balance the car, carry as much speed as possible. But like I said, objective here, can we get the car out as wide as possible at this point? You see, really soft brake, barely touching the brake at all. Just soft brake, just enough to get turned in. Now coasting and waiting. It should just about clip the inside curb. I normally say you don't need to touch this inside curb, a bit like some of the ones earlier on the lap where the sign maybe didn't roll quite enough speed. Yeah, this is just about clipping it. You don't want to be any tighter to the inside than this. Ideally, I think white line is good. Throttle pickup here. Let's do it like this, yeah? So let's try and be fast to full throttle. No, don't just... There's always a misconception. I think sometimes people think floor it and they literally just smack, almost break the throttle pedal. No, but have some control, but go on very briskly, go on fast. You see, that's very quickly to full throttle. And the reason why we're doing that is to slow you out of full throttle, the more understeer you're going to get. So if we can just pick up throttle quickly in a corner like this where we're going to get understeer on the exit, it's just going to help turn the car, and also it's going to help your exit speed as well, but it's going to help the car's behavior through the rest of the corner. So don't be... I understand because it's hard to see the exit and you might not be sure about where you're going to pick up throttle. Try and be fast as throttle. I'd rather you wait a fraction and go straight to full throttle than creep or step onto the throttle or lift out. You're going to be forced out wide here. That's all carried in fourth. Just use the exit curb nicely. You don't really want to go all over it. Again, it kind of slow you down. Shorten the distance to the inside and straighten up the wheel. Next up is 130R. Very easy corner in this car. Should be easy flat. Don't need to use the entry curb, the inside curb, I should say. You said just clip it here. Just trying to be... Main thing is I'm just smooth on the wheel and I reduce the distance. I don't need to use all the track on the right. Okay, over to the left-hand side of the track. Braking a straight line. Yes, I know the track is not going in a straight line a second, but for now we need to be straight with these lights. Very good reference for us. And we have this 100-meter board. We brake pretty much just before that. I believe it's 100 meters. Yep. You're braking a straight line. In sixth gear down to second for the first part of the chicane. And you probably start bleeding out, just as the track kind of turns away from you. So can we be as straight as possible up this marshal post kind of. Start bleeding out of the brake as you turn in. really important there to maximize what we talked about turn 1, that straight line braking efficiency, almost any 100% brake pressure you can see. If you're ever wondering why is people braking so late, why do I keep locking up, why do I keep rolling too much speed into this right hand and just try and get that initial braking, really focus on getting that initial braking as efficient as possible and then kind of work back from there. Bleed off the brake into here, down to second gear. You can take a lot of curb here. This is the limit in terms of off track, very much so. I kept 2 wheels on the track, which is why technically it's legal. Yeah, this is the absolute limit, I will say that. And you can see it picks up the car a lot. The car doesn't really like the curb, but it's such an advantage to just open up this next left that I think it's worth taking it. So yeah, down to second gear, use all this curb very aggressively, just try and prep the car for this next left-hander. Get on the throttle quickly. As soon as you land, pretty much you're going to get onto the throttle fairly quickly. And then into here, I like to shift into third, just sell the car a little bit, just help rotate the car a fraction as well. And then, yeah, this left curb, I've always said the same thing. Just run to your left tires, use the red and white. You don't really want to have them all over the inside because you don't want the floor kind of hitting the middle of this curb. You want the floor over here somewhere. So the middle of the car needs to be over here. So like I said, otherwise it understeers, it gets unsettled, you lose speed, all that kind of stuff. So try and carry as much speed as possible through this left while using that as your limit in terms of track usage. How much curb you can use. So yeah, shift up into third. That'll kind of help settle it and allow you to get on the throttle on the exit. You can see I'm maintaining throttle the whole time. That's just to keep the car nice and balanced. I have to lift out a little bit just to help the car turn in as I shift into third, which again should help it turn in. And then as soon as you land, you need to start getting towards full throttle. You can see as the rear wheels stop bouncing there, they will bounce a bit in this car. You can get to full throttle, use all the track on exit, try not to get caught up again using this exit curve. It'll just, you can use it, but it's not really advantageous. Keep the car over to the right-hand side, shorten the distance to the line, and that's the end of our lap at Suzuka. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the video. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below, and be sure to check out the Coach Dave Academy Discord in the YouTube video description. I've been Bart, and I'll see you next week.